All right, we'll call the K-12 Subcommittee to order. Mr. Clerk, please open up the board, and members, please enter in for the roll call. All right, Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Chairman, you have 8 members present. You have a quorum.
All right, thank you very much. Members, any personal orders before we begin? Chairman Slater, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And we are happy to have with us some librarians from Sumner County Schools. If there you go, right there. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it.
All right, a little bit of housekeeping on the calendar that we'll go through real quick. First one, what number was, let's see. Item number 11, is that, House Bill 154 is off notice. Next up is item number 15. All right, House Bill 2458, which is off notice. Item number 16, House Bill 1975, off notice. Item number 17, House Bill 2286. All right, I didn't make that last one official. It's off notice. Item number 17, House Bill 2286 is also off notice. And item number 18, House Bill 2435 is also off notice. All right. Brings us back to number 1 on the calendar, which we are going to, we will bring this up today. We do have testimony, and when Chairman Sapicki arrives later on, we will get to this one. But for right now, we are going to roll House Bill 2420 to the hill. That brings us up to item number 2, House Bill 349 by Chairman Slater. Properly motioned. Chairman Slater, you are recognized on House Bill 349.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I believe an amendment on this, is that correct or no?
Yes. Which amendment are you running?
014758.
Okay. Members, it does rewrite the bill. Do I have a motion on the amendment?
Second.
Properly motioned. Without objection, we'll be voting to adopt amendment 014758. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. We are back on your bill as amended. You're recognized on House Bill 349.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill improves transparency for open enrollment, giving families greater opportunity to choose a different public school from the one they are zoned for. This bill supports the interests of students and families in exercising public school choice while maintaining flexibility for LEAs to adopt and implement an open enrollment policy. With that, I stand ready for questions.
All right, thank you for that, and we will get to some questions here in a second on that. But we do, members, have an untimely filed amendment, and since we're on final calendar, we are going to have a motion to hear the untimely filed amendment.
Motion.
It is properly motioned. It is Representative Reeves will be recognized on this amendment, and in order to consider the amendment, we will have to have a voice vote. I believe we can have a voice vote on this. Is that right? Yes. Okay. So we do have, it is properly motioned. It is amendment, which one is it? The 016178 is the untimely filed amendment. All those in favor of hearing the untimely filed amendment, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no?
No.
The ayes have it. All right. Representative Reeves, you are recognized on amendment 016178.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I have worked with the sponsor of the bill. What this does is it has some cleanup items, but the main point for me is, I represent Williamson County and am quite concerned about Williamson County being made whole if a student were to opt to come into Williamson County. And so to me, this just closes a loophole where the student or the legal guardian of a student has failed to pay the tuition, it says that they can send that student back to their home jurisdiction. That's what this amendment does.
All right, thank you. And we do have some questions on the amendment here. Representative McKenzie, you're recognized on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just trying to get clarification from the sponsor, because it speaks to other things other than the tuition piece of it. Are you changing anything in 3 or 4? And if not, why is that part of this amendment? Just a question. We may have to go out of session for this.
All right, and before that, I have been told there's a little bit of some hoops we have to jump through. I need a motion in a second now that we are on the amendment.
Second.
Thank you. Properly motioned, and we will go out of session for legal to answer that question, and I'll have you ask it one more time just so that she is up to date on where we're at. So without objection, we are out of session. And Representative McKenzie, would you please ask that question one more time?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. To legal, so as I'm reading the amendment and as the sponsor explained, his desire is for the LEA to be made whole if a student bounces in and out of a particular LEA. But there's some other language in 3 and 4, and I just want explanation on why that's part of the amendment. And does anything change with regard to both the desegregation plan and the policies for being expelled or suspended?
Katie Robertson, Legal Services. 3 and 4 is in the amendment that was just adopted, 14758. The reason that it was included in 16178 is to amend the "or" that was previously on the 3, because we're adding in that list of D. The only addition would be the language in D5, and then also the previous phrases of further amend of changing semester to school year.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for legal while we're out of session? All right. Seeing none, we are going back into session, and we are back on the bill, and we're back on the amendment. Sorry, Amendment 16178. Any other questions on the amendment? All right. All right. Seeing none, we are set to vote on Amendment 1. Oh, do you have a question on the amendment? Yeah, on the bill. Yeah, this is on the amendment. Okay. All right. All right, we're set to vote on adopting Amendment 16178. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. All right, we are back on the bill as amended. And Representative Keem, you had a question for the sponsor on the bill, House Bill 349.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sponsor, one of the concerns I have is that we have started the process of decimating public schools. I'll use the term either poaching or stealing what are considered students who have support at home, who are doing academically well. Oh, okay. And what I'm concerned about is that how does this balance the diversity within schools? Or does those who already have get more, so to speak, when it comes to the academic understanding within the schools and the teachers and so forth? I know we're talking about dollars in this instance, but how do we accept decimating maybe a school system for a perceived private effort? And, then we turn around, and if young people understand what is happening, that you're you're saying that we're not worthy. You only take those students that you perceive some benefit from. Do you follow what I'm saying, sir?
Chairman Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm not sure that I'm following exactly, Representative. I don't see this bill in any way decimating our public schools. This is an open enrollment policy for students to choose another public school. So this is public to public school. So I'm not sure how that would in any way hinder the public school system.
Representative King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll use another example. I've seen in my local school system where in the past athletes were looked at as, in a sense, commodities. You know, you come to our school, you may live 10 miles or more away, you have transportation, all these kinds of things. I'm going to use the term, they were used up and then sent back to a school within their area. And academically, we have students that are taken to other parts of the system. So I don't see the balance. I see giving those who have more as opposed to striving to uplift all of the school system.
Chairman Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your question. You mentioned systems, and I would just say that this bill is really focused on giving families greater opportunity to choose, and I think that there's great benefit when we consider what a family's choice might be, what school would be the best fit for their children. And as I mentioned previously, this bill is about choosing one public school other than the one that for which a student is currently zoned.
Well, one last.
Representative King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have vouchers which take prominent students from the inner city. And now we want to, between school and schools within a district, to give this ability to just move in a sense at will. And, you know, it's like making the poor poorer, and so be you. I really question if we're looking at the whole system or whole school and just looking at this concept of free will. And I'm going to be frank with you. If you have within a school people who are looked on as being less, being looked at as not as capable, you don't have a balance. You don't have other students that's sort of an inspiration to those to improve themselves. But we see that as free will. And I think you're harming the students. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
President McKenzie, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the sponsor, as I discussed, and I know the amendment has tried to remedy this, but my concern with this piece of legislation is counties tax us. They tax their county residents at a rate commensurate to what it takes to fund those county systems. And the majority of it is our school system. I know in Knox County, 2/3 of our budget goes toward schools. Union County may be higher, may be lower. Sevier County may be higher, may be lower. That concerns me. So the person coming in is charged a tuition, but most of those tuitions will not cover, or does not, in today's environment, does not cover the actual investment of the county taxpayers. Let's be clear, the county taxpayers on that school, for that school. So that's an unfair disadvantage for those LEAs that are trying to operate within that county. So now they're going to be, I bill based on this legislation, forced to take additional students without the revenue. Additionally, as you know, TISA, it follows the student. In Knox County, that's $5,600, $5,700. In Union County, that's probably closer to $8,000. So will that money follow that student? Will that $8,000, and these are rough numbers, but they're pretty accurate. Will that $8,000 follow that student if they want to transfer to Central High School or Halls High School in Knox County?
Chairman Slater, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Chairman, I think we have someone that is available to testify who has worked with several stakeholders, including districts as well, that may be in a better position to answer that question and perhaps some other very specific questions that members have at the will of the committee and the chair.
Yeah, we do have Mr. Bergman down from Tennessee for Student Success. So without objection, members, we will go out of session. And just for the record, please state your name and who you represent. And you can start off with a brief statement if you'd like, but we can open it up for questions after.
Stephen Bergman with Tennesseans for Student Success. I'm happy to just get into questions. Representative McKenzie, if you just would like to repeat your previous question.
Representative McKenzie, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for being here today. So my question was twofold. It's one, the county portion of what it takes to educate a child varies from county to county. And I would say in most of today's scenarios, the amount, pick on Maryville City, the amount that Maryville City Schools charges for out of zone student is not commensurate with the investment that they put in to that pupil. If it's $2,600 they charge the pupil, the county puts in like $3,500. And those numbers I'm kind of making up. That's one question. How are they made whole for educating that child that's not living in their district, not paying their taxes, not buying their groceries and things of that nature to where that given to that tax base? That's one question. Then the second question was on the TISA funding formula. As you know, that funding formula varies depending from county to county. So my basic question is, does the amount that goes into that, all weights and everything, under poor, disadvantaged, all of those weights, special needs, all of those weights, does that dollar value come with that student to that LEA that they're wanting to transfer to?
Go ahead, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. And thank you, Representative McKenzie, for the question. So I'll answer both of those individually. First, on the tuition piece, I would somewhat disagree with your assertion on that because statute actually provides for how tuition is charged for out-of-district students. The way that is calculated is it takes the entirety of education funding that is allocated by the local funding body to the LEA, and then that is divided by the average daily membership. So for just a reference point here, just a given district could, if 70% of their operating budget was derived from local revenue, and that district had, let's say, 41,000 students, dividing that total revenue by 41,000 would equal $10,222 per student. I don't have the specific amount that Knox County would charge for tuition currently, but in just about every case that I have looked into, the amount of tuition that could be charged would, in most cases, actually exceed what the local portion of TISA dollars would be for that student. And on the state funding portion of the question that you asked, yes, state dollars, it's already provided for in state law that state dollars do follow the student. That the state portion of TISA funding is whatever that student would generate, which would include if there's certain weights for economic disadvantage, Title I, concentrated poverty, or unique learning needs, that is part of the state TISA dollars after the fiscal capacity formula.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you. But again, like I said earlier, the TISA funding formula follows that district. Union County gets paid more, just average student gets paid more than the Knox County students because of the capacity of the county and that just not with any weights. So again, scenario, if that number is $8,000 for Union County and $5,500 for Knox County, when that Union County student comes into Knox County to go to Halls High School, does that $8,000 follow that student into Knox County? Does Knox County get $8,000 given in that scenario for that student? Or are they just counted as a student in Knox County and get the $5,500?
Mr. Bergman.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, as I said earlier, as provided in statute, the state dollars for that student's generating district is what would follow them into the receiving district. And again, when it comes to tuition, because that is calculated based on the allocation of local revenue divided by the average daily membership, the combination of those two numbers would, in many cases, far exceed what that student would ordinarily be generating in that district.
I guess at some point,
Representative McKenzie.
yeah, sorry, Mr. Chair, I would like to ask legal that question because I don't think that's how it follows, but I'd like to ask legal that question at some point.
Okay. Representative Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Bergman, thank you for coming today. And like my colleague from Knox, he's asking a lot of the same questions that I had, and you've answered those. But I just wanted to clarify one of those points. The tuition that may be charged. So when the TISA fund, the calculations are done, there is a local portion of that in that chart, but then there's actually what the district spends. And my understanding under the law, which is, and I've got it printed out in front of me, is 49-6, 3003. It talks about tuition and fees. I'm in B2. Tuition and fees charged by a county may not exceed per pupil per annum an amount equal to the amount of funds actually raised and used for school purposes. And I want to clarify, your understanding is that it's what the school actually spends, the LEA actually spends, that can be charged as tuition. Is that correct?
That's my understanding. Yes.
Okay. And Mr. Chair, I too would like to just get some confirmation from legal on that when we go back into session. Thank you.
All right. Well, actually, it'd be better over out of session. So if legal is ready, are you ready to roll? Katie Roberts, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Katie Robertson, Legal Services. The state portion of TISA would follow the student. The local portion does not, and it's based on the enrollment for the prior year for the base funding amount, the weights, and the allocations. So for the following year, it would change that amount after the transfer.
All right. Representative Reeves.
Thank you. Let me put some finer points on it, and I'm just trying to understand for sure. The tuition that's charged by Williamson County could, for instance, we get about $4,400 from the state under TISA. I think it's the lowest county in the state, which means that the local portion is about $9,000 or so. We could charge $9,000 in tuition.
It's depending on the student. So it's a county district. If they reside in that county, they could not charge any tuition because of the property tax. But if they reside outside of the district, they can charge a tuition. And I could read off the tuition part, that how that is calculated, but I don't know that it is a match per amount.
Well,
Representative Reeves.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So in 49-6, 3003B2, it talks about the equal to the amount of funds actually raised and used for school purposes. So I would assume that's the entire local portion per student that could be charged as tuition. Is that your understanding of it?
I would say yes, but, I'm not as familiar with the how it is implemented. I just know that is, you are correct, and that is what it says in the tuition piece.
Okay,
Representative Reese?
with your indulgence. And then I'm looking at 49-6, 3104, which is the transfer of students and how that works. Under B, it says that the state school funds shall follow the student into the school system to which the student is transferring under this section. And I just wanted to confirm that is the weighted TISA funds for that particular student. Is that correct?
Yes, that would include all of the state school funds.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Chairman, all right, Representative Mayberry, you recognized?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Bergman, I appreciate you being here today. Open enrollment happens within my school district, and we have a large school district, 9 high schools that are serving the K-12 population, and we have students moving around quite a bit. So there's been a couple of comments about, athletics and other things, and yes, that happens. Or not necessarily athletes move around, but they move around for different reasons, and they may participate in a sport. But I wanted to make the note there that a lot of our more economically disadvantaged schools actually have more room, and we end up having a lot of students move to those areas because of the programs that are happening in those schools may not be happening in other schools. So a lot of times that is the actual reason for open enrollment of students moving around. Just curious if you think that would be a reason why a parent would choose to enroll their kids maybe in another district. And also, isn't it true that this bill is based on availability from the LEA? So if the LEA does not have the ability to receive the students, then they're not being forced to.
Mr. Bergman?
Thank you for the question, Representative Mayberry. And yes, I think you hit on a really important point there. I think sometimes when folks maybe take an oppositional stance to legislation like this, it's sort of founded on a presumption that parents are by default going to pick one particular school. I think there's many reasons why parents may want to choose one school over another. It may be based on the location of where the parent works. It may be based on, like you said, a particular athletic or academic program that may be offered in one school that's not offered in the home district for that student. So I think there are numerous reasons why, and legislation like this doesn't necessarily result that one district is guaranteed to lose students and may not gain others. There's never a guarantee of that. Would you be able to repeat your second question for me as well?
Mr. Representative Mayberry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, so then also the incoming district, if I was transferring my child from Montgomery County to Cheatham County, Cheatham County would only have to accept them based on if they have the availability to accept them, correct?
That's correct. And availability, especially with regard to space, much deference was given, in my understanding, in this legislation to LEAs to make that determination of what available space might actually look like. Again, while I think a good guidepost for that might be the class size averages that are in statute, that's in the legislation as I read it, that is a permissive may. Districts may choose to use that. However, many districts may choose to run below class size slightly to maintain a particular parent or student to teacher ratio. And if they wanted to continue doing so, nothing in this legislation would stop them from doing that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Bosso?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Bergman, I have 2 questions, part of which have been touched on already. The first regarding space, and then the second regarding tuition. First, given that this legislation does not provide how an LEA determines what available space is, just in your experience, how is it that an LEA might be able reasonably to determine how much space was available to accommodate students using open enrollment to enroll in their district?
Mr. Bergman?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for the question, Representative Bolso. So there are three ways that I would expect that an LEA could make this determination. One, as mentioned earlier, of course, the statutory class limits could be used. Another option that schools could use would be building capacity if they wanted to choose to go that route. Or again, if a district has a common practice of maintaining enrollment at a certain percentage of the building capacity, for example, I'm looking at one district that their policy for open enrollment is 90% of the building capacity is the cutoff point. Whenever the school gets above that capacity, then the school would go off the open enrollment list. A practice like that could be considered as well.
Chairman Balso.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And then secondly, with regard to tuition, and we've touched on the fact that the tuition that an LEA can charge is the portion that the local government actually contributes. Is there anything in the proposed legislation or an existing law that governs whether that tuition has to be paid in advance each year, or whether, on the other hand, it's something that could be paid in monthly installments?
Thank you for the question, Representative Bolso. And I believe the legislation is specifically silent on this. I think much deference I would expect would be given to the LEAs to make the determination of the actual payment plans that would be implemented. I think that that may be best addressed at the local policy level.
Thank you.
Representative Keem.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To an analogy that was used by Representative McKenzie dealing with the 8,000 and I think 5,500 for Knox County. Those kinds of calculations where students are taken, we'll say, from Knox County, do you see that as having an economic impact on the schools if a number of students for academic reasons or athletic reasons go to another county like Union County?
Thank you for the question, Representative Hakeem. And again, I want I'd like to reiterate that I don't necessarily subscribe to any presumption that one district is inherently going to lose students as a result of open enrollment, while a district such as Knox County could lose to an adjacent district, or Knox City could lose to an adjacent district. They could also stand to gain students as a result of a policy like this. So there is always the opportunity for parents to move from one district to another. It doesn't create necessarily a disenrollment numerically in one district, just based on the legislation. The other part of this too, I think, is that again, that it's not necessarily guaranteed that a district's gonna lose the students. So.
Representative Hakeem.
Okay, let me try this again. Does a school system lose money when a student leaves their system and goes to another?
So if a student left one district under TISA, the TISA dollars would follow that student to the receiving district.
Representative Hakeem.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If that is unchecked, is it possible that a school system can be decimated of the good minds of young people and athletes and so forth?
I would hasten to use the word decimate on this specifically. Again, I think many states that have implemented this policy, and thankfully Tennessee is, usually I like Tennessee to be the first on stuff like this, but a lot of other states are way ahead of the game of us on this particular issue. And the evidence has shown states that have been doing this for a long time, mass migration of students does not necessarily occur afterwards. This has been, I believe Colorado actually has the longest standing open enrollment policy in the country, and that has not been the result. And generally, polling on this issue with families has roughly reflected that. While families tend to like the fact that this choice option is available to them, the numbers are much less about those who actually would choose to exercise that choice. So just because that choice is available doesn't mean everyone is necessarily going to use it.
Representative King, one more follow-up.
Yes, sir, just one. So am I hearing from you that, we'll use Knox County, would not be irreparably harmed by the movement of students to another district?
The evidence has shown that, again, that large amounts of students leaving after the implementation of an open enrollment policy does not actually happen. And then again, too, I think specifically in the case of Knox, the movement of students would depend on surrounding districts and whether or not they had space and the student that was seeking to enroll in them met the guidelines and the criteria for enrollment. So I think there would just need to be a lot of factors in play for a large amount of students to necessarily leave Knox County schools and go to a different district. And again, that's also presuming, and I think it would be a big presumption to say that Knox County couldn't also gain some students as a result of open enrollment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman Watt?
Thank you. Appreciate it. Just a couple of questions. And the reason I ask these questions is because I really want to make sure I'm understanding the bill. And because I did get tangled up, as I mentioned to you before, I got tangled up in this legislation about 4 or 5 years ago, and I realized how complex it was for the districts when we started going down this road. Now, while I'm totally in favor of a parent looking for a better school district if it's available, but I also understand the challenges that the districts have in maintaining and making the rules for their own district. In section 1B2, it says an LEA may reserve a reasonable number of enrollment spaces each school year from the number of spaces, if any, determined by the LEA to be available for enrollment for the purpose of this section. Define reasonable. That could be, they said, well, we're not going to do it. Is this a permissive or a required bill? What? Give me a little more details.
Thank you for that question, Chairman White. And I think, of course, I would defer to the sponsor for any intent behind the language, but my reading would be that using a term such as reasonable in that particular subsection that you referenced, that would appear to me to be reflective of a lot of discussion with school leaders who especially had concerns about growth in high growth counties and high growth districts, and wanting to give the latitude and flexibility to those districts to set aside an appropriate amount of seats to account for growth there. I think that the issue that perhaps we would run into if a more specific a quantitative measure was used other than reasonable, it would be overly prescriptive for districts. And again, growth changes from year to year. Or if a given student has siblings coming in that may have not been planned for, issues like that, it would be very difficult to predict. So giving the district the latitude to set those seats aside and make a reasonable determination there, I think, to me, reflects the fact that the sponsor and folks had really worked with some school leaders on this issue.
Chairman Watt?
Thank you. And that's kind of my point. In order to it goes on in the paragraph, in order to accommodate the potential enrollment of students who may relocate within the respective school zone, students who may have siblings. A lot of these are unknowns, of course, and that's the whole issue. And so this is where when we get pushback from our districts, they're going, we have to be able to take care of our district first. So that's the only concern. I don't know. I can ask the sponsor when we go back in session. How do we determine reasonable? It sounds like this could be a permissive bill in many ways. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative McKenzie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just quickly now 2 only deals with inner LEAs. That has nothing to do with folks coming from outside the LEA. This only has to do with, unless that teacher lives outside, this only has to do with students who are relocating within the school zone. Students has a student in the school zone and the parent teacher. So I think that's only inside the LEA or if a parent lives in the county. 1 deals with students coming from outside the LEA into the school zone, not having a parent, teacher, or a sibling there. That to me says in the second part, I guess it says that, in my opinion, that they cannot include a certain number only if they've reserved some spaces. The LEA has reserved some spaces. Is that correct?
I'm not entirely sure I follow Representative McKenzie, but I think just to address a particular point you made about subsection 2 here, just dealing with intra-district, I don't believe that is entirely correct. Subsection 2 here just deals with the LEA being able to reserve that reasonable amount of space to account for, in this case, growth in that district, and that can inform their choice that they're making with how many of those seats that they're setting aside. So I don't think anything in this particular subsection deals with the distinction between intra or inter-district.
All right, Representative McKenzie.
Again, I'm just going to read it. An LEA may reserve the reasonable number of enrollment seats each school year from the number of spaces from above, if any determined by the LEA to be available for enrollment purposes in this section, in order to accommodate potential enrollment of students who may relocate within the prospective school zone, students who may have a sibling enrolled at the respective school, and students who may have a parent who teaches at the respective school. That is saying to me, students from within the LEA, within the school zone, students who kid may have, older brother, older sister may have transferred in, they get a pass in, or their parent teaches in that. That has nothing to do with just Johnny wanting to come into a school system. That's all Section 2 says. Section 2 has nothing dealing with a random student wanting to transfer into an LEA. That's what I'm saying. And I don't want to have a running dialogue, but so we may want to ask legal on that one, but that to me is what 2 says.
All right. Mr. Bergman.
Yes, I think I don't disagree with what you said, Representative McKenzie. However, I think the operative language here in particular is students who may relocate within the respective school zone. That specifically addresses growth in that district. So again, if a student or family relocates into a certain county, the school can account for that potential growth through this provision. As far as the students having a sibling or having a parent who is a teacher at the respective school, that mirrors existing statutory language that allows districts to prioritize those students in those situations in their open enrollment policy. So that's roughly consistent with what's already in law.
All right. I will just add that one of the things that we heard from some districts is the concern about the local money lagging, because while the state dollars follow pretty quickly, the local dollars lag behind a year. And so when you do have a student that comes in from out of county that requires additional funds, those funds aren't there initially, but would have to catch up the year after. And that puts some county commissioners in some tough spots because they're looking at trying to make whole on a student that's not bringing any property taxes or anything into that district. So that's something that we've heard from districts. I just want to make sure that we get that out there for consideration as well. Chairman Bolso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Bergman, you just touched on this a moment ago, but Chairman White specifically had questions about subsection B2, as did my good friend from Knox County. But when you look at existing statutory language in 49-2-128B2, isn't it the case that this proposed bill has language that is identical to what is already in code?
That's correct, Representative Bolso. And again, I think much of this was I think that policy, especially of districts being able to prioritize students whose parent teaches in the district and particular situations like that. Those are generally good things, and they make, I think, common sense to me. So I think that was, I believe that may be the intent of some of that language there, is just to preserve, I think, what's already pretty good policy.
So this B2 that discusses what is a reasonable number of enrollment spaces is not new language. It's been there for some period of time.
That's correct.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. I believe that we're ready to go back into session. We're on an excellent pace this morning, I have to say. All right, without objection, we're back in the session.
Thank you, Chairman.
And I'll go to Chairman Slater for any comments that he would like to make before we do have a few people that are down to for questions for the sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would say that the crux of this bill is 2 points. First of all, transparency for parents who may want to consider enrolling their child out of zone or to a new LEA. And then secondly, flexibility when it comes to districts. We have not taken away that flexibility when it comes to the district setting a policy for the number of spaces or what their capacity is. So with that, I'm
All right.
ready for questions.
Thank you. Representative Hakeem, question for the sponsor? All right. Representative McKenzie and Representative Reeves. All right. Chairman Watt.
Back to what Chairman Hastings said, as far as, is there anything in the legislation as far as when a student does leave one district, maybe into another, what is the formula for the county paying the other district the funding? Do we have that in place in this legislation? Or how would that work? Do we know?
Chairman Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is been stated, of course, the TISA dollars follow, but I think the best answer to that is the fact that we haven't taken away the opportunity for a receiving district to charge tuition, which has been covered in the previous questions and how that process works.
Any other questions? Representative Mayberry? All right, he's good. All right. I think we're set to vote. I think everybody's ready. All right. Mr. Clerk, please open up the board for voting. Members, please cast your vote. Does any member wish to change their vote? All right, Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 4 ayes, 4 noes.
All right, with that, House Bill 349 does fail to pass. All right, that takes us to item number 3, House Bill 1759 by Chairman Slater. You are recognized. Oh, thank you. Properly motioned, you're recognized. And do you have an amendment?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. 016147.
All right. Properly motioned, and it does rewrite the bill. So members, without objection, will be set to vote on adopting amendment 016147. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. The ayes have it. We are back on your bill as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Currently, there are, and this is a staggering number, but there are 600,000 working age Tennesseans that lack a high school diploma. That's an incredible statistic. 600,000 Tennesseans, working age Tennesseans that lack a high school diploma. This proposal maintains the existing adult high school law while adding an adult charter school framework. And there is currently no framework in Tennessee, charter school framework for adult students, and that's what this bill addresses. And with that, I stand ready for questions.
All right. Thank you for that. Representative Keem, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Slater, do we have any data or information as to whether this has been done in another state and how it's benefited that state? And economically, the dollar wise, is there a tuition that, I don't know, the state pays, or does the adult pay a tuition?
Chairman Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for the question. First of all, as it relates to other states, yes, there are other states that do have a framework that would be similar to this. The one that is probably most closely aligned to this is Indiana. So it has been done in other states. As to your second question related to tuition for adults, no, there would not be tuition for adults. These, as with all charter schools, these are public schools. And so there is no tuition for these schools.
All right. Representative King?
Just, I guess, clarity, there will be instructors, there's cost involved. But there's no tuition. And I guess I'm trying to understand, we're already strapped in public schools. And will this increase the deficit of some of the needs of students who are already there?
Chairman Slater?
So once again, this follows the existing framework that we have when it comes to charter schools. And of course, there are charter schools around the state. There is no framework for an adult charter school. And so this would follow that framework, but there would not be, the tuition would, the cost would not be borne by the students, by the adult students.
Just one last thing.
Yeah, Representative King?
Okay. The physical note, does this have a physical note?
Chairman Slater?
So,
It's listed as other
yeah,
fiscal.
it's other
It's listed as
fiscal
other.
impact, other fiscal impact.
I heard two people talking. Give me that
It's
again.
listed as other fiscal impact on the fiscal note.
Would someone give me an explanation of what that means?
It's unable to determine the actual dollar amount is what the technical definition is of other fiscal impact.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative McKenzie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what I hear you saying is the state will pay for a 40-year-old young lady going back to school via the TISA funding formula? Is that what you're saying?
Chairman Slater?
So going back, I think perhaps, let me back up, I think to answer Representative Hakeem's question a little bit more. In current charter schools, for example, we're not talking, there is no adult charter school, but in current charter schools, the responsibility, for example, for that brick and mortar is borne by that charter itself. And so that's where the funds would come from when it comes to these charters as well. So that's similar in nature. And I think that goes perhaps back to Representative Hakeem's question. As far as would a 40-year-old individual be responsible to pay for this? No, a 40-year-old individual would not be responsible to pay for this. It would be borne by the charter school itself.
Representative McKenzie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'll ask my second and last question this way. So the state of Tennessee, would the state of Tennessee be responsible for paying for any of these 40, 50, 60, 30, 25-year-olds educational experience at this adult charter school?
Chairman
Will there
Slater?
be any funds expended from the state of Tennessee?
Chairman Slater?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And so the answer to that question is yes, the same way that the state is responsible when it comes to charter school students currently in other charter schools.
All right. Representative McKenzie?
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Chair. Thank you. So this is an increase. This will increase our budget. And we don't know how much it will increase our budget because we don't know how many students. I'm not saying this is a bad program, but I think we're clear on this is going to cost us money because there's a whole lot more folks out there that's in one particular, charter school statewide. So this is maybe a good program, but this could have a huge fiscal note on the taxpayers of the state of Tennessee. So thank you.
Chairman Watt?
Thank you. First of all, what you're doing is great. I started working with Memphis Excel Center 10 years ago on this. And we have 120,000 Memphians who do not have a high school diploma. And so to be able to get them back in where they can then take advantage of Tennessee Promise, Tennessee Reconnect is a great thing. What I want to get clarity on, and I think I do because I've asked those in Memphis where we have this, is make sure when we're going back, we're not talking about a K through 12 charter. We're talking about just a charter for adults. And because we had to pull them out, they were a K through 12 charter originally down in Memphis, and they only got 2/3 dollar because K through 12 is funded differently than an adult school because time in the seats and everything. So I just want to make sure we are clear on our language that we are fully funded. And yes, I think under this legislation, it would require more dollars. But if we can get, we've had Drive to 55 for how many years now? Well, these people will never get into Drive to 55. They can't go into community college or anything until they get that high school diploma. And so that's why this is a very good piece of legislation. I just want to make sure, and I was told that it's okay. I just want to make sure that the funding mechanism for an adult charter is not the same as a K through 12 charter.
All right, Chairman Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your question, Chairman White. If you look in Section 8, you'll see under subsection G, funding for an adult public charter school is based on the full-time enrollment average daily membership, and then there's an acronym for that. It must be calculated based on a 4-hour day and a 20-day school month. The calculation for a school month must be determined by dividing the total hours for which students were enrolled in the adult public charter school during the school month by 80. So as it relates to funding, there would be somewhat different than a K-12 student attending a charter school. It would be based on the needs of adults using this formula that is specifically outlined in the bill.
Representative Keem.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think what Chairman White described, what's happening in Memphis, I think is outstanding. But I don't know if we are using the tools we already have in the toolbox, meaning our 2-year colleges, or, in Chattanooga, we have a trade school. And I guess there are other things of that nature that could be used, but this has the potential of a physical note I guess we don't know about. And I guess that's my concern. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman White.
Thank you. Quick response, Representative King, a good point. But the issue is we don't have anything for adults to go back, and once they finish and they cannot get into that trade school. They cannot get into that 2-year community college because they got to have that high school diploma. Now, a lot of times you go back and get a GED and things like that. But this high school diploma, the way it works in the Excel Center in Memphis, you pick up where you left off in high school and then you graduate. So that gets you into the pipeline. So it's really by doing it that way, and what we're trying, I think what Chairman Slater is trying to create here is a pipeline for adults who dropped out for whatever reason in their life, and to get them back into get the high school diploma. So all the things you're talking about can be. But I've been working on this for like 10 years, and we don't have an adult program for those who dropped out of high school.
All right. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, I think we are set to vote. Mr. Clerk, please open up the board for voting. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 ayes, 0 noes, 1 present not voting.
All right, with that, House Bill 1759 moves on to full education. All right, that brings us, is Chairman Hawk in here? He left. All right, we'll go ahead and, is there anybody else? Okay, we'll bring him up. I was just making sure there's no one else in the room that's not on the committee. Okay, we'll go ahead and bring up item number 4, House Bill 1881 by Chairman Slater. Properly motion. Chairman Slater, you're recognized on House Bill 1881, and I believe you do have an amendment.
That drafting code is 015712.
All right, and that is properly motioned, and it does make the bill. So members without objection will be voting to adopt Amendment 15712. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed say no. Ayes have it. We are back on your bill as amended. You are recognized, Chairman Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, what this bill does currently in our education savings account program, students are required to, that participate in that program are required to take the TCAP. This would allow students to take the TCAP or a nationally standardized achievement test. And with that, I stand ready for questions.
All right, Reverend McKenzie, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This to me is a bad piece of legislation because this is the one place of all the voucher bills that are out there, and there have been several, that pulls data. This is direct side-by-side comparison. We talk about, kids needing a choice. We talk about ad nauseum about parents needing a choice. Okay, you've been given a choice. Now let's test you. Let's train you up in the private school environment. Let's train you up in the public school environment. And let's test you. We all love UT made the Sweet 16. That's a test against Virginia in this case. The same basketball, the same goal heights, the same court, and we're going to test. That's what these 2 years have done. And because you don't like the results, because our public schools have done better than our voucher kids in private schools, no, that's like saying, okay, we don't want to play with a basketball anymore. We want to play this game bouncing a football. You're changing the whole thing. This was done for a reason. And now we have test results that says our public schools are doing a better job than, not great, but better than these private schools on the tests that we have developed over the years and approved over the years. I would say approved over the years and tweaked over the years. And we've just given value to it, and we're about to give more value to it in other avenues. And now you're telling me that because you don't like the results, you don't have to play anymore. You don't have to test anymore. You can do whatever test you want to do, as long as it's a nationally known, but there's no direct comparison. Wow. 2 years worth of data, which is what you say you love. You should never be afraid of data. We'll quote that again. And 2 years into it, now you're going to say, since the results are not advantageous to my argument, we now don't have to test them anymore. Representative Slater, why is this piece of legislation before us today?
Chairman Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And the reason that the legislation is before us is not for what you stated, because there's disappointment with the comptroller's report. The reason that this legislation is before us today is because testing must be aligned with the standards, the curriculum, and the instruction that a student is receiving. We work very hard to make sure that the TCAP is aligned with the state standards that are established, starting with this body and then going to the State Board of Education. We work very hard to make sure that the TCAP is aligned then with those textbooks that are adopted by the State Board of Education. And then we work very hard to make sure that it's aligned with the instruction that is received in our public schools. So yes, we work very hard on alignment. When students are in a different school, in a different system, in a private school, the standards can be different. That's what it means to be a private school. The textbooks can be different. That's what it means to be in a private school, and the instruction can be different. And so therefore, the private school must have the opportunity to choose the test that is aligned. That is just good education policy. It all has to do with alignment. That's why this bill is before us today.
Representative McKenzie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry. Fifth grade mathematics is fifth grade mathematics. Being able to read on grade level is not different from a public school and a private school. Being able to read on your grade level is the exact same thing. You may have different ways of getting that, but math, 2 + 2 has to equal 4 every time. As you know, I'm a technical person by a training. That's why I love physics, because it's reproducible. Gravity is going to work every time. And when you teach it, it's taught. So now you're telling me that somehow our public school teaching at the 7th grade level, at the 9th grade level is different? 9th grade mathematics is different in this book and that book? No, they're the same objectives. The standards are the same. You can't convince people of that. You can try, but your standards are your standards. Your direct data, the direct data from these students taking these tests yielded results that does not support this educational savings voucher, scholarship, whatever you want to call it. And all you're saying now, you're giving a fancy answer that says, well, our tests are different, but the learning should be the same. The learning is the same, and the results are the same. Going back to my analogy, Rick Barnes teaches basketball different than Coach Odom at Virginia. Totally different practices. But at the end of the day, the court is the same. 8th grade mathematics, 8th grade English is the same. You should graduate with the same amount, types of instruction. You should know algebra at this level by the 9th or 10th grade. So I'm sorry, that does not hold water. You're running from the results. You didn't like the game. It's not even lost yet. This is still data. Private schools might end up increasing over a period of time. But why are we going to stop taking the data? Why are we going to stop testing, direct testing? And again, the last thing I'll say, thank you, Mr. Chair, for allowing me. And the last thing I'll say about it is this should be a testament to our public schools. At this point, we're winning. At this point, we're winning. Don't run from the win. So again, I'm going to ask you, why would you do away with a directly comparative test on our students that we're giving money to go to these private schools?
Before I go to Chairman Slater, I think we can all get on the same page of one thing. We wish that the private school Duke would have lost before the private school Vanderbilt this past week.
Yes, we did. That we can agree on.
That's a different private school debate. Chairman Slater, you're recognized.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative, there is education policy, and not just policy, but research that shows it is important that the test that a student receives is aligned with the standards, the curriculum, and the instruction that they receive. That's the reason for this legislation. The nationally normed reference tests are valid and reliable. And so a private school and a student that goes to a private school should be able to take a test that is aligned with the curriculum, instruction, and standards that they receive.
Chairman Watt?
Thank you. Yeah, I remember back when we did the ESA, and of course I did fight hard to keep the state test in there. However, we do need to remember that to receive these funds, a private school has to be a tier 1, 2, or 3, which means they're authorized either by the Department of Education, the Board of Education, or by an authorizing agent that has been authorized by one of those two. And they can take the accreditation away where they can no longer receive funding if they fall out of that tier 1, 2, and 3 of the authorization. So that does give me comfort there. One part of this bill, but I can see both sides of the argument very clearly. But you got to be over tier 1, 2, or 3. So that's a safeguard.
Thank you. Any other questions for our sponsor? All right, seeing none, I think we're set to vote. Mr. Clerk, please open the board for voting. Members, please cast your vote. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 5 ayes, 2 noes, 1 present not voting.
And House Bill 1881 with that passes on to full education. All right, members, we do have a few of non-committee members that have been waiting to present. So we are going to pull up a couple of items out of order here. So we're going to bring up Chairlady Carringer first, and then we'll bring up Chairman Hawk. That will be item number 13. If you'll turn your hymnals to page 13. We are on House Bill 640 by Chairlady Carringer. Properly motion. You are recognized, Representative Carringer, on House Bill 640, and I do believe you have an amendment.
Yes, I do.
All right, and what's that drafting code?
It is 014870, and it makes the bill.
All right, members, do I have a motion on the amendment? Properly motion. Members without objection will be voting to adopt amendment 014870. All those in favor, please say aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. We are back on your bill as amended. You were recognized, Representative Carringer.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Committee. What this bill does is 3 things. It requires the department to provide guidance to Tennessee Accelerating Literacy and Learning Corps, their members and tutors, that aligns these tutoring services to the students' remediation needs. It will allow the departments to provide a report on the effectiveness of these remediation programs. And it will require the department to provide a list of IT systems to LEAs that can measure students' progress for these remediation services, while also making sure the data is protected. No LEA will be required to use any IT system. And this last part of the bill, it is permissible to all LEAs across the state of Tennessee. And what it's going to do by having this is just to require, it's just offering additional help to our LEAs and to give the state more information on what is working and also maybe what is not working so that we will know what we need to work on. So with that, I'll stand for questions.
All right, thank you, Chairlady Carringer. Members, any questions for our sponsor? Seeing none, I think we are set to vote. Mr. Clerk, please open up the board for voting. Members, please cast your vote. Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 8 ayes, 0 noes.
All right, with that, House Bill 640 moves on to full education.
Thank you, Chairman and Committee.
All right, that brings us, we're going to bring up item number 12 on the calendar, House Bill 2365 by Chairman Hawk. Motion and a second, properly motion. Chairman Hawk, you are recognized on House Bill 2365.
Thank you, Chairman and members. This bill comes to us specifically from constituents. We have municipal school districts largely in Northeast Tennessee, so it is somewhat unique in that we have an opportunity for students to live outside the city limits, and I'll use Greenville as an example where I live, students who live outside the city of Greenville can pay a tuition to come into Greenville City Schools, commensurate with a particular rate. I believe it's around $1,600. A family has come to me specifically with the thought that their two young children now, kindergarten and first grade, would like to utilize one of the scholarships, a portion of one of the scholarships, to pay that tuition, not the full amount of the scholarship, but to pay just the tuition amount to come from residents outside the town of Greenville to come into Greenville City Schools. Recognizing the fiscal note on this piece of legislation, it is more than just one family that it affects. Obviously, with $20 million, it is substantial. But I put the concept out there. I've had some good conversations with committee members and welcome any comments, constructive comments that the committee may have at this point on this piece of legislation, Chairman and members.
Thank you, Chairman Hawk. Members, any questions? Representative McKenzie, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Chairman, to be clear, what you're saying is now, like you probably heard a lot of the previous conversation. So that difference could be paid by the vouchers, is what you're saying. So if they come in from South Green into Greenville school system, they could pay that portion they could apply for one of these and pay for it. That's
Chairman
what you're
Hawk?
saying. Okay.
Sorry.
That is accurate. And I think in conversations with several committee members, year one, I can understand where the finances make sense year one, or can be made sense of year one. Year two and future years do create a concern. And then as I'm hearing other bills being debated in this subcommittee as well, the capacity of a school district could change in subsequent years. So I think there's many questions. I think that this bill has merit, and I may have even been part of a conversation that this committee had several years ago or 2 years ago when these bills were being debated. I'm at the will of the committee. If the encouragement is for the committee for me to take this off notice and work more in future years on this, I'm happy to do that. Or again, I'll accept any more constructive comments that members may have.
Representative McKenzie.
So just as a quick follow-up, I'm not a fan of vouchers in general, but this to me makes a little more sense based on what you said. It may not be ready for prime time today, but I definitely see what you're trying to do, and I see the advantage given the playing field that we're on currently. So thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Chairman White.
Thank you. No, I was going to say the same thing because of the other bill, the 40,000 that's moving forward anyway, and the discrepancy maybe in the funding, it may be better that we hold off a little bit and work on this more. That'd be my opinion as one of 8.
Okay.
Chairman Hawk.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman. With the discussion and the urging of this subcommittee to do some more work, I would respectfully thank you for your time and ask that this bill be taken off notice.
Thank you, Chairman Hawk. And without objection, House Bill 2365 is off notice.
Thank you, Chairman and members.
All right. We do have, we're going to go to bring up item number 10 by Chair Lady Alexander. And then if Chairman Sapicki is hovering around, we'll make sure to get to that one because we do have some testimony that had been down that we want to make sure that we get them up to date. So item number 10, House Bill 2129, properly motioned. Representative Alexander, you are recognized and you do have an amendment.
Yes, I believe that amendment should be 012160.
I think that
Or maybe I'm,
I
maybe I
think
got
that we
another one.
check yours.
I'm sorry.
I think it might be 015370 is what we might have. down.
15370 is
Okay,
correct.
all right.
I'm sorry.
Properly motioned, and it does rewrite the bill. So members without objection will be voting to adopt amendment 015370. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. All opposed, say no. The ayes have it. We're back on your bill as amended. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, committee. For many years since I've been here, I have felt the need to establish some pre-K programs across this state. Early childhood is the most rapid period of the brain development. A child's brain forms more than 1 million neural connections per second in early years, laying the foundation for language, social skills, problem solving, and emotional resilience. High quality pre-K builds school readiness. Children who attend strong early learning programs show better early literacy and math skills, improved social emotional development, stronger self-regulation, attention and communication, higher confidence entering kindergarten. These gains help children stay on track throughout all of their school years. That's why pre-K matters. Because of that, I do feel that it is important for us to really take a look at the numbers across the state, how it affects the school systems, how it will affect our children. And so this bill is asking for a TASER study to be done, a statewide inventory of public education preschool programs, including voluntary state-supported VPK, special education, local funded programs, the actual cost to school districts for operating these programs, current funding sources and amounts, including analysis of gaps between funding and cost, assessment of access, participation rates, unmet need, comparison with other states and their preschool systems, policy options and recommendations for future program development, anticipated need, and substantial funding strategies. I have spoken with TASER and that they know what we're looking at, and we did amend the bill to September 1, 2027 when we would like this information. But I do think before we ask the state to fund something, we need some fundamental data to back it up.
All right, thank you for that, Representative Alexander. Did have Representative Akeem down for a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess it's more than a question. I wanted to move for approval if we could. Am I too aggressive?
Without objection, members, we are set to vote. Mr. Clerk, please open the board for voting. Members, please cast your vote. See a member wish to change their vote. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 8 ayes, 0 noes.
All right, with that, House Bill 2129 moves on to full education.
Okay, thank you, Chairman.
All right, that brings us, we're going to bring up from the Hill item number 1 on the calendar, House Bill 2420. Chairman Sapicki. Properly motioned. Chairman Sapicki, you are recognized, and I do think that there's an amendment that rewrites the bill that Chairman White has. Is that correct?
Yeah, Chairman White will provide the amendment, and I'll give explanation.
Okay, Chairman White, do you have the drafting code for the amendment that needs to go on the bill?
I believe we should be on 15794.
Okay. All right, members, it does rewrite the bill. So without objection, we'll be, I need a motion and a second, sorry.
Motion. Second.
Properly motioned. Without objection, we'll be voting to adopt amendment 015794. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. The ayes have it. We are back on the bill as amended. Chairman Sapicki, you are recognized.
Thank you, members. This is our virtual school bill on how we're going to look at what are we going to do with virtual schools that are not living up to the obligation of those students that they have said that they're going to educate. The original bill language was immediate closure. We've talked about that. There was another possibility of giving them 6 extra years of performance. And so what this amendment does is it comes to a compromise, and it's a fair compromise. It doesn't look backwards, it looks forward. So all of these virtual schools in the state of Tennessee, that if you're going to face any type of closure, will be staved off for 3 more years. So with the upcoming priority list due out in 2026, that if you're on that priority list, you have the next 3 years to get off that priority list, or you would face closure as a virtual school. On the TVOS numbers, going forward, next with the new reporting of TVOS coming out, you have the next 3 years to get off a level 1. And able to stave that, you just have to show a level 2 growth 1 time, and then the process would restart. We believe it's fair. We believe we set the expectation of we are going to look for quality options for our kids in Tennessee. That's what the amendment does. I'll be happy to answer questions. Mr. Chairman, I know we have testimony on this too. I'm going to watch your time.
Yeah, members, we do have, we had close to 20 that had requested to be on this. We had some that had already testified in the Senate, and so we worked the best we could to get the ones that had been requesting on this last few weeks. So we do have Davion White, Laura Tench, Christian White, Dr. Childress, and Stacy Stuppy. So without objection, we will go out of session, and all those that I called off that are here, come on up and get one of the seats at the table. And so without objection, we will go out of session. And if all of you would please make your way up, and lucky you that sat in the right-hand seat there, we're going to go from right to left, or we're going to go from this right to left. So you can sit anywhere. You can sit anywhere you want up there. And what we'll do is we'll start from my right to left, and your mic will turn red. You'll state your name and who you represent, and we ask you to keep it around 2 minutes. The mic will go off at 3 minutes. We'll have a hard stop at 3 minutes. But go ahead, and then we'll work across the line here. So go right ahead.
Thank you. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Stacy Stuppy, and I serve as the Executive Director of Volunteer State Virtual Academy, a public school authorized by Lewis County Schools. This is my 35th year in education, and I've been employed by Lewis County Schools since the fall of 2015. Let me begin by saying clearly, we support accountability. Schools should absolutely be responsible for student outcomes. However, the original House Bill 2420 raises concerns about how accountability timelines intersect with the realities of school improvement, particularly for new schools. VSVA is currently in our 3rd year of operation. Both our middle school and high school are on the state priority list targeted for closure. For the middle school, that designation was based on only 2 years of data because the school itself is new. Importantly, our 2nd year of data alone would not have placed us on that list. It was the average of our first 2 years, our startup year, combined with that 2nd year that resulted in that designation. We looked closely at our data, and we began making changes based on what we saw. We strengthened leadership structures, we improved instructional supports, and implemented targeted interventions for our students. We're already seeing improvement. For example, our 6th grade ELA scores went from the 8th percentile for the 42nd percentile year over year. English 1 and English 2 in our high school have achieved level 5 growth, both above the 90th percentile. Our biology at the high school has achieved level 5 growth in the 78th percentile. Our high school priority designation is tied to our federal graduation rate, not academic performance. In our first year, we experienced rapid enrollment growth, and some students enrolled but ultimately never attended VSVA, and we should have managed that better. We have since implemented stronger systems to track and follow up with students who disengaged. But here's our concern. Priority designation in Tennessee exists so that the state can provide schools with targeted support, resources, and time to implement improvement strategies and demonstrate progress. VSVA was designated this year, and those supports have not yet been implemented. The original language in House Bill 2420 mandates closure solely for being identified as priority school and does not provide even one full improvement cycle. In contrast, other schools are afforded 2 full cycles, approximately 6 years to improve. This means that our middle school and high school will be forced to close at the end of next school year, regardless of any improvement. For a school that's only in its 3rd year of operation, that creates a significant inequity. What we're asking for is the opportunity to continue our work, not to be closed, largely based on the data from our 1st year of operation. Our request is simple. Allow all schools identified as priority schools an equitable opportunity of 2 full cycles to implement improvement strategies and demonstrate results before closure decisions are made, because accountability should ensure improvement, not prevent it. Thank you.
All right, we'll go here next. Just state your name and where you're from or who you represent, and you have you have up to 3 minutes, and then after everyone speaks, we will open it up for questions, so you will have a chance to elaborate on some things possibly. Go ahead.
My name is Christian White. Committee members, I have been attending online school at VSBA for 3 years, and I absolutely love it. Children and teachers need this online school, which has proven to be very beneficial over the years. When I came to VSBA in 5th grade, I was 2 grade levels behind, meaning I was at a 3rd grade level in 5th grade and had to be taking arts ed classes. My teachers were very dedicated and they provided the support needed for me to excel tremendously. By the time I got to the end of 6th grade, I was caught up to where I needed to be, and now I'm proud to say that I am performing on grade level in all my subjects because of VSVA. I even got scores met on TCAP, ELA, and history last spring in 6th grade. I was only a few points away from receiving MET in math. This is a lot of progress. This school has not failed me, and I would love to continue receiving my online education at this school. If I were to attend physical school, I would have to be picked up by a school bus, and that would be the same for my fellow schoolmates. If VSVA is closed, this would lead to an increase in taxes to integrate all these virtual learners into the physical school system. Thus, virtual schools are helping the state to save a lot of money. Tennessee is a very beautiful state, but we must agree that sometimes the weather can be very unpredictable. For example, during the last snowstorm, several schools were closed. I am pleased to say that I was still able to attend school at VSV and receive an education despite all that was happening. This would not be possible if I were to attend a physical school. I implore you all to please keep VSVA online school open because children, including me, need a safe place to learn and excel. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
My name is Davion White, and I'm thankful for this opportunity to speak on behalf of my school, VSVA, and to explain why it has become so effective in helping other students and me to grow and thrive. I talked with my peers about their opposition to this bill, and one thing that stuck out to me was how VSVA has been beneficial to those who suffered from various health issues, and the fact that they were still able to attend classes and receive an education without having to miss school a lot. This would have been a challenge if they were to attend in-person school. Additionally, I was shocked by how reliant many families were on online school throughout Tennessee. Many students, especially those in high schools, would just drop out of school if not allowed to attend online. And this is a horrible thought to think that leaders had the opportunity to help us at VSVA to thrive, grow, and contribute to society, but sadly did nothing to help. Committee members, I'm sure you all have kids of your own, right? I'm also sure you'd want your kids or grandkids to get the best, correct? I can assure you that this is what VSVA provides for me, the best. I've been in an online school environment for all my life, but this was not the case for my older brother who went to a physical public school for 5 years and had a challenging time. Upon hearing the stories of my brother's past experience, it was evident that there were tons of distractions, peer bullying, and it was a constant challenge for him to stay focused in school. When he transitioned to K-12 Stride School, he thrived, and it was just like a breath of fresh air. I've realized that a physical school setting is not for everyone. My brother successfully graduated from his safe place and is now a pre-med chemistry major at his junior year at Tennessee Tech University. Without this switch, I'm pretty sure my brother would have been among the statistics of high school dropouts. This story is one of many examples of successful virtual schooling, and I want to be a success too. We're the people, as the United States Constitution tells us. We wish to have the government look out for the future of America. When we work together, reason together, we bring the star-spangled, mighty nation, blessed by God, working at its peak. I urge you all to keep the doors of VSVA open so our dreams can be kept alive, lives can be touched, lights can keep shining, and hopes can be brightened. Committee members, you all want to make a difference, right? I therefore implore you all to start thinking about the future of the youth and be an inspiration for those crying out to keep the doors of their virtual school open. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Dr. Childress?
Good morning, Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak. HB 2420 creates an unequal accountability standard for virtual public schools in Tennessee. I'm Dr. Tanya Vandergrift Childress, Executive Director of Tennessee Virtual, a public school program operated by Union County Schools. I'm a Tennessee educator with more than 2 decades of leadership experience in traditional and virtual public schools. Let me begin stating clearly, just as Ms. Stuppy did, we support accountability, but accountability must be fair, applied equally, and must be aligned to all public schools. This bill creates an unequal accountability standard for virtual public schools. In Tennessee's accountability system, a school identified as priority represents the lowest performing schools in the state and receive direct intervention and support from the Department of Education. They are given time to process and to improve before closure is considered. Under HB 2420, Tennessee Virtual Academy could face closure based solely on TVOS growth, even though the school has never been identified as a priority school, nor given the same process afforded in the Tennessee Improvement Framework. TVOS Level 1 growth does not trigger state intervention process. No other public school in Tennessee, traditional or public charter, can be closed based solely on TVOS growth. HB 2420 would bypass Tennessee's improvement framework and move directly to closure before the system has a chance to work. While Tennessee has more than 60 virtual programs, only a small number serve students statewide, particularly for families in rural districts where a full virtual option may not exist locally. For many students currently enrolled in statewide virtual schools, there will simply not be another comparable option for them. If implemented as proposed, this legislation could disrupt the education of more than 8,000 Tennessee students who rely on virtual education. For many families, virtual education is not simply an option, it is the option that keeps their child connected to school when other environments have not worked. This is personal for me. I grew up in East Tennessee in a single-parent household, and educators opened the doors that allowed my siblings and me to be the first in our family to attend college. Just as educators created opportunities for students like me, thousands of students today rely on access to learning environment that allows them to move forward. For many of these students, virtual education is the place where they rediscover confidence and reconnect with learning. Every Tennessee student deserves access to the learning environment that they can personally thrive. Thank you for your consideration.
All right, thank you. Members, any questions for our guests? Chairman Bolso, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you all for being here. My question specifically is for Mr. Christian White. If you could, Christian, could you tell us why it is you believe that you fell behind in school originally, and why it was that going to virtual school allowed you to catch up?
Well, I was going to a private school.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions for our guests? All right. Seeing none, thank you all for being here today. And without objection, we will go back into session. You may go back to your chairs. All right. Without objection, we are back into session. And Chairman Sapicki, you are recognized for any other comments for House Bill 2420 before we open it up for questions for the sponsor.
Thank you, Chairman Haston. a lot was said there. Let's remember that we're not on the old bill. We're on the amendment that was adopted by this committee to extend the priority list for another 3 years and extend the TVOS for another 3 years. So that's the first thing we're considering. And the original language that maybe you passed on, you heard about 6 years. That would mean in 2032, that these schools who have been underperforming, some of them from over a decade, would be able to continue on receiving state funding in the millions of dollars and not moving these kids forward. Now, a lot's been said. Let's get down to the data here a little bit so we're making a good decision here. Of the schools that would potentially, let's say we fast forward 3 years from now and the same schools are in the exact same position as they were right now. No changes academically, been on the priority list, been a level 1 TVOS. Oh, by the way, did you know that Metro Nashville Public School System is a level 5 TVOS? Metro Nashville Public Schools, level 5 TVOS. Memphis has a better TVOS than some of these virtual schools. So let's think about that first. Second of all, the schools that may close potentially in 3 years from now equate to roughly 7,599 students. Currently, there are 65 virtual schools in the state of Tennessee, 25 with statewide options, 25. There were 49 virtual schools out of the 65 created since COVID. 49. 5 just last year. South Carroll, Murray, Blount, Lenoir, Bradley, Maryville, Bristol, Manchester City, Greenville, all have statewide options that are performing better than these schools that are potentially 3 years from now going to be closed. But what does closure mean? Closure doesn't mean the end of virtual schools. What closure means is they have to choose a better option for their students. One of the remaining schools that are left open, and if they want to have a statewide virtual option, there's multiple options for that available that are performing better than the school that these children would be signed up to take right now. Quality over quantity. Those remaining schools statewide, 7,500 students that potentially their schools may have to choose a different option. Those 15 other schools that would be available have 21,000 potential open seats. 21,000 potential open seats. Sometimes we have to make a tough decision. Now, we had some thinking over the last week that, you know what, maybe immediate closure is too harsh. But we set the expectation for the next 3 years that we expect something different from you. All we're asking you to do if you're a TVOS level 1 is to get to a level 2, please, to show better results to these kids. The young lady who testified right here, with the amendment we have, if they hit a level 2, they're off the list. They're off the list with a level 2. When Metro Nashville is a 5. On the priority list, next year when the new priority list comes out and it resets for another 3 years, that they're going to get their academic support and their help from the State Board of Education and the Department of Education to help get those schools turned around. 3 more years. The Union County virtual school is due to appear before our State Board of Education accountability hearing for this virtual school precisely. We passed that legislation already. Those hearings are coming into play. They have to go before the State Board and say, why are you here and how can we get this turned around? If nothing changes in Union County for the next 3 years, they're in the exact same position they are now. the state would have given them $20 million. $20 more million. In Lewis County, they stayed exact same as they are, $14 more million of taxpayer money for a failing school. We're not saying you have to do away with virtual schools. What we're saying is if you're underperform, you got to pick a better option. Stand ready to answer your question, Mr. Chairman. I know we're up against time.
All right, thank you. Representative McKenzie.
That was me, Mackenzie. Rep, I came I'm claiming my time.
Introduce
yourself. Yeah, introduce myself. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So quickly, everything you say, I get, and I've told them all to come by my office, and I know we've all been inundated, doing the same thing. We're practicing insanity if we keep going the route that we're going in terms of our schools. But my concern is my main concern is what Dr. Childers brought up, and that is there's double standards here. As I look at, being transparent, I look at in my district, we advertise Ceremony Green, which is in my district, as the only failing school in our system. But when I look at the numbers, Halls Elementary, Gibbs Elementary, Copper Ridge, which is Powell Elementary, if he's in the Powell system, is on that list. We had Knox Prep open up for a 2-year failure. They decided to quit before they got on that list. So they went out of business. So that's why I like the previous bill that came through, because it did have a same standard for our public brick and mortar schools and our public virtual schools. Why doesn't this piece of legislation have those same closure options? Because failing's failing, whether you're sitting down in the classroom or sitting on your couch in front of your computer. So what's the difference, and why aren't those schools on this piece of legislation?
So, Chairman speaking. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry about that. So 2 questions to answer. First one is, we already passed a bill on the statewide accountability hearings for those schools that are deemed failing schools. Brick and mortar, virtual charter, they have to go before the state board, explain themselves to the state board. And one of the recommendations that the state board can give to the Commissioner of Education is closure. There's a bill sitting in full education right now that we need to vote on, that it deals with tier 3 intervention schools that are failing, that have been on a priority list that are failing. The Commissioner of Education can make a recommendation in the bill to the state board for closure. We have to draw a line in the sand. I agree with you. We have to draw a line in the sand. To say that virtual schools are treated the same as brick and mortar or charters is not a true statement. They're not. I'll give you some of the reasons how they're different. And I'm pretty sure that the virtual community who has these organizations, they don't want to be treated like everybody else. And I'll tell you why. Here's the things that they don't have to do that our charters or our brick and mortar schools have to do. There is no rigorous application or approval process. There is no enhanced financial oversight. Public governance and open meeting compliance doesn't apply to them. Nonprofit operation requirement. Charter schools have to be nonprofit. Virtual schools don't. And we've taken votes in this committee on for-profit charters and have said, no, it's a bad idea. But we allow for-profit virtual schools. There is no fair and regulated enrollment process. There is no ongoing evaluation check by the state. It's all done by the locals. Fixed contract terms and public renewal process is not there for virtual schools. Limits on out-of-district enrollment are no limits right now, and they are not subject to comptroller oversight. I'm pretty sure, because when we go back to education later on in the day, there's an admin bill sitting there with, I have an amendment to make them just like charter schools that I'm sure they're going to oppose because we're treating them just like charters, which they just said they want to be treated like. They want to be treated like charters in certain ways that benefit them and not in others. I hope that's a long answer. I apologize, but.
And Chairman Sapicki, members, and I'm at the will of the committee, we did have Aaliyah Guthrie down from SCORE that had also requested to testify today. If we'd like to go out for a brief out of session to have her comments, if that's all right. All right, without objection, we're out of session, and Aaliyah Guthrie may come up and state your name and who you represent for the record, and you have a couple minutes for any opening comments, and then we'll open up for some questions.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Aaliyah Guthrie, and I'm the Vice President of Policy and Government Relations at SCORE. And I'm here in support of House Bill 2420 as amended. This legislation reinforces a simple but important principle that high expectations are for all public schools, including public virtual schools. So just want to make 2 points. I think there's been some confusion along the way. This bill does not create new or unfair closure criteria. The accountability standard that is in this legislation and in the amendment has actually been in Tennessee law since 2013. And under current statute, any virtual school could be closed after demonstrating consistent, sustained poor performance of a priority school list identification or significantly below expectations for growth for 3 consecutive years. This bill does not create that standard. It merely enforces it. So this is not a 1 year or 1 test trigger. Every virtual school has existed, has opened under that expectation. Second, this bill would not close all virtual schools. There are higher performing virtual schools in Tennessee, and we support families being able to choose virtual school, but there are 65 virtual schools in Tennessee, and the current criteria, there are 12 schools that would meet that existing closure criteria in the law, but that means there are 53 virtual schools that do not. And of those 53 schools, there are 18 statewide, and 11 of which have no additional enrollment criteria. When families choose a school, whether brick and mortar, virtual, whether it's a charter or a magnet, the state has a responsibility to ensure that a student is going to receive an excellent education. This bill is not about the mode of instruction, it's about the quality of instruction. And House Bill 2420 upholds that expectation for all schools. And with the amendment, it solidifies the criteria while giving schools time to improve before that criteria would be enforced. So thank you for your time. I think this is consistent with Tennessee's high expectations that we have for all schools that have led us to improve.
All right, I had one question, and I think it's one of the most important things that we've got to make sure that we pin down, or at least get on the record today. What kind of assurances and what kind of promises have we had from the Senate side that this amendment would even be adopted on the Senate side?
So I can't speak for the Senate sponsor, but I can speak for SCORE. And so SCORE is supportive of this amendment. We believe that it is reasonable to solidify this criteria and to provide schools with an opportunity to improve. But we aren't trying to hide the ball, that we do believe schools that consistently are underperforming should close. And so the bill as amended would enforce closure based on the 2028 priority list or 3 consecutive years of level 1 growth.
Well, I just think it's really important that we really get on the record, kind of what the posture of this could be. And if it's a really good chance that this bill as amended does not end up being the amended bill on the House floor at some point, then that's something that needs to be seriously considered in committees on the House side. All right. Any other questions for our Chairman Bolson?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Guthrie, for being here. It's alarming that 12 out of 65 schools meet the criteria for closure. That's obviously almost 20%. One thing that I wonder, though, is why the free market is not working the way one might expect. I mean, for example, parents have the greatest interest in ensuring that their children receive a quality education. And if we have 65 total schools, 53 of which meet the criteria, 12 of which meet criteria for closure, why is it in your view that parents are not able to distinguish the quality virtual schools from those that might be of less quality and enroll their children only in those that meet the criteria that show that they're doing a quality job at education?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think one of the most well understood failures of the market is an asymmetry of information. And so I do think that sometimes families don't have all of the information about schools' performance. And as has been discussed earlier in this committee, parents may choose different virtual school option or different school options for a variety of reasons. But I think that is why the state does have a role to look at clear criteria, like our growth measures and our achievement measures, to say what is the quality expectation that we should have. So I do think that sort of a lack of access to that information would be my best guess as to why students are choosing these schools. There are a few that are quite large, and I know that they do recruit across the state. And so I think then that becomes the information that parents have, are the sort of ads or mail or things that they receive about the school. That may be more present than what's on the state report card or on the state's data downloads page, which is why I think it's important that the state take a role in establishing what our expectations are.
All right, one quick follow-up, and then we're going to have to get back into session.
Thank you.
Chairman Balso.
Mr. Chairman, I think you're absolutely correct. It's an asymmetry of information. And so, I mean, I'm someone who does not like to eliminate choices that parents have for their kids, but I'm someone who believes in robust disclosure of accurate information. I mean, what consideration, if any, has been given to the concept of having legislation that doesn't mandate closure, but rather that mandates disclosure to parents of the school's performance, so that parents are now possessed with all relevant information, and we eliminate that asymmetry versus eliminating the schools themselves?
So the bill and the amendment also has parent notification criteria that has previously not existed. So I agree that ensuring parents have information about the performance of their school. So whereas in B1, it talks about the closure criteria, it then goes on to say that any school that is required to close, that parents would be notified within 1 week, that they would also be notified of other enrollment options. But in the next section, it says that any virtual school that is even on the cusp of meeting closure criteria, so 2 years of level 1 growth, or in the bottom 10% on achievement, that all parents would be notified. That your school's not closing, it's not on the list to close, but that's why that is in this legislation, is trying to improve the type of information parents have.
All right, thank you. And with that, we're going to have to go back into session. All right, and I did have Chairman White down. Go ahead, you're recognized.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on what Ms. Guthrie was saying. Is we're back in session now very quickly. I know we're about out of time. So back in 2013, when the Education Committee was passing this, we had the same discussion. The same parameters of closure, but they made the mistake, may and not shall. And no one want to make the hard decisions over the last 13 years and say, you're failing year after year, but there's no closure. So the only thing we're changing today is putting shall in there where there's a may, so we don't go another 13 years with the same outcome.
All right. Representative Reeves, I did have you down early on. It'll be quick. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I think I'm a yes on this bill because of the compromise and the runway that we now have. And I'll tell you my concern. I'm concerned about how we're measuring. And so I would like to come back next year and look at that. TVOS seems to be the primary measure. And I'm a little alarmed because it measures growth. And as I look at this list that was passed out yesterday, I've got a 10-year-old son in 4th grade public school, and his school has a TVOS level 1 for the last 3 years. Now that's partly because it's a good school and there's very little to grow, but I do worry about how we're measuring that. I won't say that I understand all the measures, but I would like to look at that, and I just wanted to put that on the record. Thank you.
All right, quick follow-up, real quick.
Chairman Speaker.
Over the summer, Representative Leaves, I'll be in contact with you. There's going to be a committee looking at TVOS.
All right, members, we are up against the clock here, so we are set. Oh, Representative Mayberry, sorry. I did have you down. One quick.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say on the record that I was not comfortable with the original language, and I share that with you and others. With the amendments, I'm more comfortable if we're holding the line, like Chairman Hastings said. And I would love that if we can get our Senate sponsor there, that we would send this back to this committee. And I'm curious if you, Chairman and Chairman White, if you guys would agree to that.
Chairman Spicki.
Well, if we got to the House floor and you know how the process works, we go back and forth, we would eventually wind up in conference committee. Our job, and I don't know if it's Chairman White's bill, I'm just presenting it for him. The speaker would appoint two committees and they'd have to resolve the differences. And then that report would come back to the House and they would say, hey, here's how we resolved our differences. And then the House votes it up or down. And if they vote it down, it fails. If they vote it up, then we've come to a good compromise that everybody agrees with. It's just the process. If we send it back, then we just defeat the whole purpose of the conference committee. So we just have to get to a point where, I mean, we got one more committee to go through. And then if this passes out with the 3-year compromise, the Senate knows where we are. And instead of compromising off of 6 and 1, we're compromising off of 3 and 0. So we'll fight, see what we can do.
All right, members, thank you for that discussion. Mr. Clerk, please open up the board for voting. Members, please cast your vote. Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Mr. Chairman, you have 5 ayes, 3 noes.
All right, and with that, House Bill 2420 passes on to full education. We will recess until 3 o'clock tomorrow, and we'll take up the remaining bills on the calendar tomorrow at 3 o'clock. And with that, we are adjourned.